especially our hypertensive persons. We're really looking forward for them to try to change that habit. So, having said that, I'm going to pass you on to our guests. Both of them have been here before, like I said before, so I'll let them introduce themselves again, and they will start by speaking about, you know, the difference less salt can make in our diet.
Okay, so good morning again to everyone listening to us. Thank you for having me again. My name is Fadia Campbell. I'm a nutritionist by profession. I work within the Ministry of Health and Wellness and Gender Affairs. I work in Region 5, which is the Vieux area. But it's always a pleasure to drive down to Soufrière and to enjoy the breathtaking view, the pitons, the oceans, and so on. So it's indeed a pleasure again to be here. And I have with me a student, my student. She's a teacher by profession. However, she is studying, she's doing her master's in public health nutrition. And I will have her to introduce herself to you.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Claudia Clovis David, and like Ms. Fadia said, I am a teacher at the PI Secondary School. I'm also a student of the University of Technology in Jamaica. I'm really happy to be here to share knowledge with you about salt and about our diet so that we can live healthy lifestyles as citizens of St. Lucia.
Thank you, Claudia.
You're
that
welcome.
was great. Okay, so today we're going to talk about salt or cell, right? Si bagay la pani cell, pani gu, right? This is our perception, right? So let me just put some things into perspective and just give you a little background as to what salt is. So salt basically is the crystal-like chemical that that is called sodium chloride. Well, and then sodium is refers to the dietary mineral. Sorry. So there is a difference between salt and there is a difference between sodium. So salt, which is table salt, what you use in your food, is made up of sodium and chloride. These two minerals. All right.
Yes.
And so there is a little difference. And the way to remember it, sodium, when you think about sodium, it is natural in foods. So your ground provisions, your fruits, your vegetables, your herbal seasoning, celery, parsley, all of these food would contain sodium, right? Sodium also is placed in food when it is manufactured, right? So you have the processed products, the canned stuff. So the manufacturers, persons who produce this food, will also add sodium to the food.
Yes.
And salt now is what you get, your salt shaker, the table salt. Yes. So a best way to remember it, sodium occurs naturally in food, right? And it is also placed in products, processed and products, food. Right? So let us see now some of the functions of sodium, because we need sodium in our body. In as much as our body cannot make sodium, but we get it from the foods we eat in our diet. So let's look at some functions of sodium. What it does, it actually helps your cells and organs to function properly by regulating your blood pressure.
Yes.
So that is why when persons have high blood pressure, you always hear the doctor, the nutritionist, the health professional would tell you to cut down on your salt or your sodium intake. Yes. Also, too, sodium helps to contract there's muscular contraction, right? It supports that function in the body as well. It also keeps your nerve, your impulses, the way you feel and all of that. It also keeps it functioning.
Yes.
All right. It's also one of the electrolytes, as we say, that responds for maintaining a healthy amount of fluid in your body.
Right.
So all of that is important. And also last month we looked at Kidney Awareness Month, right? There was a day that was observed as Kidney Awareness Day where we looked at chronic kidney disease. And if you think of sodium, the connection between sodium and your kidneys, remember I said it also helps to provide balance to the body, right? And it also, when there is excess amount of sodium, your body tries to get rid of it through perspiration, through urination, right? So where does the kidney come in? The kidney, it has to support balance and all of that. And then also the urine is made there, right? It is stored in the bladder, right? So there is that connection. Yes. So that is why we're asking persons to cut down on their salt and sodium, their total amount.
Yes, because
go ahead.
the more sodium you take, the more pressure you put on the kidneys to extract it. So if you take less, the kidneys will try to hold the sodium. But if you take more sodium, the body has to work harder to get it out of your body, and it builds your blood pressure. So there's the balance. The kidney is always trying to balance. That's why it's important that you know the amount of sodium or salt that you take into your diet.
I want to ask you this question. How long before your kidney actually, both of your kidneys go bad?
Okay.
And what would cause, because you haven't mentioned about excessive salt. So what are the factors that contribute to actually making this thing happen?
Okay, so when somebody has what we call chronic kidney disease, it's a progression, right? There are 5 stages of kidney disease, right? So there is chronic kidney disease, whether it's stage 1, stage 2, stage 3. And may I hasten to say that in these stages, there are no symptoms.
Wow.
But let me also hasten to say that, especially in St. Lucia, even it's a global statistic that diabetes and high blood pressure seem to be the cause of kidney disease. So when it gets to 4 and 5, we say that it is end-stage renal or kidney failure.
Yes.
So the kidneys have shut down, they have failed, and that is where dialysis now comes in. Yes, at stage 4 and 5, that is when you and your doctor will be speaking about dialysis because the kidneys no longer can function.
Yes.
Yes.
And the thing about it, when they stop functioning, you cannot reverse it.
If they failed, you cannot. It's irreversible.
You can prevent progression, but you cannot reverse it. So that's why it's better that you take precaution than allow your kidneys say, I'll leave, however, and the kidney may be split at stage 3, nice, you cannot reverse it.
You cannot.
Yes.
But Ellen, let me go back to the stages. So stage 1, it's just a minimal damage kind of, it's stage 2 about the same, stage 3. But the thing about it is, like Claudia said, we want to, stop the progression. And you can do that through diet, through the amount of salt you take in your diet and so on. And we'll go into that a little further. And I have seen persons, because I used to work in the renal unit at St. Jude Hospital when they just opened. And I saw persons with chronic kidney disease that stayed at stage 1 for a good while because they were able to maintain their diet and do what that was needed. Stage 1, stage 2, that delayed the progression of the failure of the kidneys. You understand? So that is important.
Yes.
So it is when it gets to stage 4 and 5, the kidneys have failed. There is nothing that can be done. That is why persons need to go on dialysis.
Yes, and we emphasize that because you see, when you reach at that stage, it's even more difficult to manage it because your diet is restricted significantly, and also the cost of dialysis it's very expensive. It's like $350 a session, and you may need 3 sessions for the week. So we have to evaluate that and really take stock of our health so that we prevent all of these things.
Yes. Just to reiterate, last week, Friday, we had this presentation at Viewfort, and we actually had a patient who's been on dialysis for 11 years. And she came to give her testimonial with the other patients. 11 years, persons have been on dialysis for 20 years, I know. Yes. And she has... let me just give you a a little pinch of the cost of dialysis. So she came to tell us that, just her overall management of being on dialysis, her diet and so on. And I knew this patient from inception.
Yeah.
Right? I was a dietitian then. And she tells you that she goes there for 3 days a week. She has to spend 4 hours on the machine. So what the machine does, it removes all the blood, it cleans it, and it takes it back. So it's like it's like a kidneys out of your body, the dialysis machine. That's what it does. It cleanses the kidneys and will do what the kidneys will do.
The toxins and
Right, the toxins and everything. And then when it is cleaned and all of that, the toxins are removed, the blood is then placed back into the body. Yeah? Yes. So that's the job in a nutshell of what the dialysis machine does, the math. And she tells you she pays $350 per session. Just let's think about it. 3 days a week, $350. So how much is that for the week? And how much over 1,000 plus?
Yeah.
So I think I might have checked for the 11 years.
Yeah.
That was $550,000. $550,000 she's spent already. The 11 years now she's on dialysis.
Yeah. And who in St. Lucia works for $1,000 really in our everyday job?
So it is so much more expensive to manage than, let's say, we're telling you about healthy lifestyle practices, cutting down on your salt intake. And there are so many things that, like I said, let us go back to the dietary aspect. So it is recommended that your sodium or salt, we use it interchangeably, but remember I made the little distinction between the two, is the total amount of salt a person or sodium you're supposed to take in a day is less than a teaspoon. Now, when you think, I just forgot to bring my measurement. A teaspoon is basically, a measured one.
Yeah.
Right? It has a measure, right? But then just think about the smallest size spoon at your home.
Right.
That is the total amount of salt somebody is supposed to take in a day. We say 2,300 milligrams, which is approximately a teaspoon. So just think about everything you would have eaten in a day. So you started your day with a banana. The banana has sodium and you don't even know how much. The CMOS or whatever you may have eaten may have some.
Yeah.
So if you can extract all the sodium, salt from the drink you had there, the banana, and everything else you will eat for the day, the amount of sodium has to fit in that teaspoon. So that's the amount, the recommended, or even less.
Yes.
I want to ask you guys a question. You guys speak about, or you guys spoke about the amount of sodium or salt we actually use. What about we eat, the persons that don't want to eat out? The fast food, the restaurant. What's about that?
All of that.
I don't want to use the word careless, but I wasn't knowledgeable about the amount that is going in there.
Right.
That is why at the end of my presentation, I would say that would be a helpful tip if you can eat out less.
Right.
Because a lot of the foods that are prepared, they are highly seasoned
Yes.
with the MSG, the monosodium glutamate. That is a flavor enhancer, and all the soy sauces that are being used, and all the packaged seasonings, the bohio, the cubes, and all of that is used to season food.
Yes.
But remember I said the manufacturers, they put excess sodium in there.
Yeah, because
in addition to what we would have been putting in our food when we cook.
Yes.
So the control, sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, the sodium is a preservative for the manufacturer. So they'll put it in there for their own benefit, but it doesn't mean that it's benefiting you.
As the consumer.
Right.
Exactly. So the thing about it is, yes, the manufacturers may be putting it there as a flavor enhancer to preserve their foods, which of course we preserve our foods even in the past, remember, and even now I think persons do that. They would put salt on their pork, their pig for Christmas time. You find persons salt their pig, their meat and so on, even salad, put it in the sun to dry and yes. So sodium has its part in our whole preserving the food from microbial organisms, right? Yes, but at the same time, when we take in excess as consumers, it is detrimental to our health.
What would you tell somebody that let me not use the word vegan, but say you have the dreadlocks or whatever, or whatever, I don't like the meat, I don't like the chicken, saltfish. Every day I will cook saltfish.
Now there has to be a measure of control.
Yeah.
Yes, because I mean this salt fish and salted fish would be cured in sodium. Right? That would be cured for a number of years, even years, who knows? You know? So then even if yes, you say, but you have to exercise control.
Yes.
So I would encourage you to eat saltfish every single day. And some persons would put it to soak, but here it is. Sodium by itself is tasteless, it's colorless. And some foods that are high in sodium, you don't even taste the saltiness in it.
They're like water.
Well, yes, tasteless, colorless, but it does have sodium in there.
Yeah.
So we have to be so careful. And this is we cannot depend on our taste buds to tell us whether the thing has sodium or not, because it may be tasteless.
You see, somebody who would want to argue that because a while ago you made mention the comparison with sodium or salt and of course chlorine. Remember?
Right, that's good.
So what about the water we drink every day? And of course you have to preserve the water from the
Of course,
disinfectant.
they would.
The amount of chlorine that's in the water just to
keep it microbial organisms. Yes. So yes, it has been put there to preserve, to prolong the longevity or the shelf life, as you may say, of the bottled waters and so, but they still do contain some sodium or chloride. Yeah. Yeah. To go and get the spring water somewhere in Fossil.
One thing about the chlorine, when it's added to the water, it does not stay in the water for very, very long.
Okay, thank you for that.
Especially with the sun, it kind of just
dissipates,
yes,
evaporates and stuff. Okay.
So that's one of the things. So it does what it has to do to kill the microbes and the other bacteria in the water at a very, very fast rate. You understand? So when they chlorinate the water, based on the quantity of water stored in the holding tanks and the flow, gravity, they check all of that before they can add the chlorine to it. And based on that, there are some people who say, the water tastes a kind of way and so on. But by the time it travels through our pipe, there is no more chlorine in it. But that's already done what it's supposed to do.
Thank you.
So another thing, as you're on that, sometimes when we open our taps, you realize it's very white, literally. And somebody was saying it's not chlorine that's in the water, it's air bubbles.
Right.
Yes, it's air bubbles.
It's air bubbles.
So it's really white, milky, but it's air bubbles. Yes.
And when it settles, you will see the natural.
Right.
Clarity of the
Yes.
Okay, somebody's asking, how does sodium affect high blood pressure? And does other minerals have the same effects on the blood pressure as well? That's what I'm asking.
Okay, so how does sodium affect the blood pressure? When excess sodium is taken into the diet, it increases your blood volume, right? So when your blood volume is increased, it puts pressure on your heart. So your blood volume, your blood has to circulate. Now, when that is too much, your organ, which is the heart that is responsible for pumping the blood, it gives it extra work. So it has to do it faster, and so that by itself increases your blood pressure. Right?
Yes.
So that is that is how sodium is able to affect blood pressure. It increases your blood volume, and in the end, it puts pressure on your heart, and there you may tend to develop high blood pressure over time. Other minerals, does it say minerals?
Yeah.
Okay, like other minerals, nutrients, I know for sure, potassium actually helps to kind of balance off blood pressure.
Yeah.
So that is why, that's in a positive way. So that is why when persons do have high blood pressure, we ask them to take in sodium-rich foods. So things like fruits, vegetables, potassium-rich foods, yes. Also, calcium is important in heartbeat. So also too, calcium is also very, very important in that aspect as well. But I think the person wants to ask the negative impact of the nutrients.
Go ahead.
But I know for sure sodium is the primary factor for the increase in blood pressure.
Yes.
Yeah?
Yeah. Well said.
Let me see. Any other question? Hey, let me say going to all you guys on Facebook. Shout out to all you in the diaspora. Okay, this is very true. What are the first stages of a bad kidney? The signs before it reach too late. I think you highlighted.
Yeah, I highlighted it a little bit, but the ways the stages of kidneys are diagnosed is through a kidney test. You have to do what we call a renal function test, right? That is done in the lab. The blood is withdrawn, and the lab person does that.
Technician,
The
right?
technician, yes, and we have what we call your glomerulus, right? Filtration rate, that word, yes.
Big word.
Now that's a big word. That is where the filtration of the blood takes place and all of that in your glomerulus. So that test is done, we call it your GFR, your estimated GFR, right? That is where it will detect the stages of kidney failure or even healthy kidneys, right? And there is a particular range, right? And they were saying there, if your kidneys are functioning well, your glomerulus filtration rate is supposed to be greater than 60, right? So anything that is less than 60 going down. So let's say like 59 going down, 59 to, I cannot give you the exact ranges, but less than 50 to, let's say, 40 something would be stage 1. Less than 40 something to whatever would be stage 2. And it would go down and down and down until, let's say, to 10. 10 would be like no way for the kidneys. End stage renal failure. The kidneys have failed and it is irreversible.
Okay, so I'm a serious woman. I have no problem. I can see.
Right.
It's like, so when should one go for a kidney test?
Marlon, like we've been preaching all the time.
You understand?
You do your health checks.
Right.
You do your annual health checks. So that is when you'll be able to detect. So when you do your annual health checks, ask your doctor to prescribe or write up renal function tests, liver, your thyroid, for the men, the prostate, the PSA, do an EKG for your heart. So basically you want to find out what is happening to all parts of your body, basically. General tests that would say, okay, whether you have a clean bill of health or not. So it's only when you do this test you'll be able to know what is happening to your body.
Yes.
Quickly, you guys spoke about salt. What about sugar?
Okay, although it was cell we were talking about today, but you want to know sugar?
Oh Lord, okay.
Yes,
but sugar is detrimental also, but we'll speak about it in another
in
show.
another forum.
Yes.
Yeah, we'll come another day. Yeah,
Yes.
we don't want to mix that to today.
Right.
But of course, sugar, excess is detrimental as well to our health. You understand?
Earlier on, you said about a teaspoon of salt. Now, normally we measure our salt in the curve of the salt, bouchon salt. That's how we do it at home. And it's difficult for somebody to know what is a teaspoon. And you said the smallest spoon at home. So what I'd encourage persons is try to at least use a spoon so they know how much they're putting. Because a bouchon cells are to somebody a tic-tac cell, a shy cell, but you'll not know. So
Different
it's important.
taste buds.
Yes,
Right.
and then can the sapana cell, lemon goûter. But like we say, you cannot wait on your taste buds to taste sodium.
Right.
So it's important so that you can use a spoon and then gradually cut down on it so you can see the progress of what you're doing, as opposed to just using the curve of
Now I'm happy you mentioned taste buds. Now we have something else called salt sensitivity and salt resistance.
Right.
Now, when somebody is salt sensitive, they are more likely to develop high blood pressure. So it's like plumete sel an bagay la ou akodi ipan gou, so pa mette please sell, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But salt resistant is when, Louisa, you taste that, my food, if I cook, you say, Mama, it's really salty, that kind of thing. Now there is a little tinge of genetic in that as well, and they say more in the blacks and so on, right? Your race. So persons tend to be more salt sensitive, so they would eat salt and so on. But then that's where the danger is. It is likely that it may lead to high blood pressure
Yes.
and so on. Yeah. Right. So there is salt sensitive and salt resistant. Yeah.
Yeah.
Resistant is like you cannot take in too much salt.
Especially when
That's
you
all
eat
right.
peanuts. You know, I used to ask myself, why they wouldn't pick the salt on peanuts?
Exactly.
And then every day we pick
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
So that is why some of the tips I had, dietary tips, you eat unsalted snacks, so
Yeah.
peanuts and
Popcorn.
popcorn and all of that. And eventually over time, you will get accustomed to that.
Yes.
The less salt. So if you never made any change to your salt intake, you'll always want it. But you can start every day. You decide to use less salt in the diet. All right, and then also too, I always tell persons, ground provisions
Yes.
do not need the addition of salt
No.
because naturally they do contain sodium. So that is one step in the right direction to cutting down on your total salt intake for the day. So bois pain, dashin, patate, yam, fig. Oh, la Manhattan adamundi, mwen masa manje bois pain sel. But trust me, when you cook the provision, just let it dry up a bit. You will see that whitish. When it's dry enough to see, like when you cook bread and it's dry enough, you will see a whitish a film over the bottom of the pot. So that's to show you that sodium that's in there. So this is a step in the right direction. You don't need to add salt. And then what I can say, if it is like Claudia encouraged or recommended, you measure it. So you use a teaspoon. So if today you use whatever, you cut down, let's say use half of a teaspoon and a third of a teaspoon until you realize, wow, I can use my provisions and no salt added to
Right.
it. So you can do that gradually over a few week period. All right.
Yeah.
And of course, the use of a lot of herbal seasonings like your celery and your parsley and rosemary. And we have so many different kinds of local herbs that we can season our food with
Yes.
and not necessarily put a lot of salt in the
there,
food per
yeah.
se.
I have
And-
a question. Hold
So-
on.
Go ahead.
Fadia, in doing some reading and so on, I started reading on the alkaline diet. And what is really recommended in the alkaline diet is the sea salt or the Himalayan pink salt. So can you give me a little heads up between I almost choked you there. A little heads up as it compared to the pink salt, the Himalayan pink salt, the sea salt, and the normal table salt that we currently use. Is there a difference? Is there, something that I can...
The different kinds of salt or sodium. At the end of the day, yeah, the manufacturers may add other stuff to the salt or the sodium. Whether it's the Himalayan that was
Himalayan pink salt.
pink salt that was taken somewhere deep in the ocean, somewhere. But at the end of the day, we have to think of salt as NaCl, which is sodium chloride.
Right.
And if it is taken in excess, it's going to, wherever it came from, is going to impact your body as long as it is in excess. However, salt or sodium, they would have added iodine, which is important, right, for thyroid function and all of that in your body. But at the end of the day, Louisa, sodium chloride is sodium chloride, and if you use it in excess, it's going to be detrimental to your health.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Yes.
And I was saying that we should also monitor the children because
Oh, yes.
the snacks they consume, and additionally, they always feel that they have to eat mango and salt. Something must have salt in
Yes,
it.
sir.
So
What in the sauce?
Yes, I remember we used to get that
Right.
one in the sauce. But even, of course, that would have been a local snack for us. But what about the packaged ones? The cheese balls and the cheese curls and the chips and the Cheetos and the big foot and the sodium intake is very high, and most of them would contain the monosodium glutamate, the flavor enhancer. So that is where I think the attraction is, the
Yes.
the taste is. So the children, they are more drawn to eating those foods, right? And don't forget that I forget to put that in perspective and to tell you that the kidneys, the size of your kidneys are as the size of a fist, your fist, right? And then the children, remember, their kidneys would not have been fully developed like an adult. And just think about, the kidneys are still developing, and putting excess sodium in the body would, drive it to excess pressure.
Yes.
That can cause the failure, and even as they grow into adults, may lead to kidney failure, kidney disease, high blood pressure, and so on,
Yes.
and stroke and heart disease in the
Yes.
end when they become adults.
Yes.
So we need now to, arrest that situation by not introducing those excess sodium snacks in particular to our children, and give them wholesome fruits, wholesome vegetables,
Yes.
snacks with less salt or less salt in there.
Yes.
And also, as we were speaking about snacks, and I find it fitting to go in and talk about even reading the food labels.
Yeah.
Right? The packaged foods, where you need to know how much salt or sodium is in there. So by reading the food labels, you will know that this product has X amount of salt or sodium
Yes.
as well.
I kind of miss out on the recommended sodium for the day.
Yes. So for an average healthy adult, it is recommended that the intake is about 2,300 milligrams, which is about a teaspoon.
Yeah.
For the day?
Yeah,
Yes.
for the entire day. Oh, you weren't there when I was telling Ulan that if he were to extract all the salt or sodium from the food he eats, that should fit into a teaspoon or even less. They're even recommending even less, like 1,500, half of that amount. So half of a teaspoon. You're even on the safe side. Because think about it, Louisa. You would have eaten bread and you do not know how much salt is in the bread. You would have eaten crackers, you're not sure how much, right? You would have eaten the provisions, you don't know how much. So generally, in fact, the Food and Drug Administration, the FDA in the US, is saying that the average adult consumes about 3,400
Yes.
milligrams of sodium. So almost twice the amount that we're supposed to have in a day, which is a lot. That is a lot of salt or sodium.
So the other thing is, hearing you speak about that, remember the last time you were on the program and you said about the servings of crackers supposed to be 10 or 12 crackers. I mean,
Well, for the crips, it's 6.
six.
Yeah.
6! So
Yeah.
this morning I was actually trying it, so I tried the 12 crackers. Wow.
Yeah.
I went to serve it more. My God, Fanny, I'm so hungry.
Louisa, listen to this. So if you had a dozen, which is 12, so you'd have had 2 servings, which is okay. Because that's a main meal for you, your breakfast, which is fine. But if you're having like it as a serving is a serving, right? Whether it's crackers, whether it's bread, whatever. A serving is a standard size of food, right? That the manufacturer tells you, you eat X amount, this is what you're going to get. This is the yield, how much sodium, how much protein, how much nutrients you're going to get in it's a standard. But that does not mean, Louisa, you can just eat 1 serving of crackers.
Right.
That is the standard size they're telling you. But if you have in your breakfast, that's the important meal, supposed to be one of the heaviest meal of the day. You can have 2 servings. That's
Right.
fine.
Yes.
It's okay.
Right.
Yes, it is fine. A serving size is just a standard size of food. But that does not necessarily mean you're just going to have 6 crackers and feel that is breakfast for you, because it may not be filling and you might not be meeting your nutritional requirements for the day. Right. So the 12 you ate is okay. And look, you're saying you're hungry already. So you'd have had to add other things with that. Maybe a nice hefty salad like I did this morning. I had a hefty salad.
Me too, I had tomato.
Yes.
But I put salt in it too,
Yes, I did add a pinch of salt with some olive oil, right? And garlic on my salad.
Yeah.
So yes, Louisa. So maybe at that time, probably you might just need a little mid-morning snack to keep you going before lunchtime.
Don't worry, I eat some grapes. I'm just saying that because many times we educate the public and we don't try it ourselves. Even Fadia and Mrs. David is there to educate us, and we're there and we don't try it ourselves. So when we go out there and persons come say what they're going through, we cannot relate to them because we have not put ourselves in that situation ourselves. And I made it my duty every time y'all come on the radio program and I keep on trying.
That's
I
good.
keep on trying what is recommended
Yes.
and to help out the situation, because when I go out there and person say, I heard Mrs. Campbell said that and that, but I tried and it's not working. I say, girl, me too. However, I did that and that and that and that, and I think that's the way,
Yeah.
People can relate to people better.
Right.
I mean, we have to practice what we preach
Yes,
and
yes.
so on. So I'm just saying out there, yes, we give you the information. We're trying our best, to help the changing behavior. But it's not so very easy sometimes. So bear with patience and, keep on being determined
Right.
to do the right thing.
Yes. And I also appreciated the fact that you clarified the standard serving size, because most persons starve themselves in an effort to just keep to the one serving. But a one serving for a child and an adult is different. A construction worker and somebody who's sick. That's why you need the dietitian, you need the nutritionist to give you guidance. However, we're not here to make nutrition seem so heavy and that you cannot eat, and after we're telling you no salt, we're telling you cut this and cut that. It's supposed to be enjoyable, but it's just that the way that we have trained ourselves, now we have to do differently so that we can do better.
Definitely. And I just want to go back to a little bit, if you will allow me to,
Yes, you can.
as it relates to chronic kidney disease and diet. Because we're saying that the primary reasons for kidney failure is hypertension and diabetes, or high blood pressure and diabetes. So the times when we used to tell you, in the absence of kidney failure, to eat all your fruits, all your vegetables, and so on, the diet becomes very, very restricted
Very.
when a person develops chronic kidney disease. So right now we're telling you generally, cut out salt, let's say, in the provision, in your meal preparation. When somebody gets kidney disease or kidney failure, after the provision not even supposed to touch the salt, you're actually supposed to, soak the food, we call it leaching, in order to extract all the sodium in the food. So if, as a kidney patient, you're on dialysis and so on, and not even dialysis, you're at stage 3, let's say, we recommend you to soak your provisions overnight. So if you're deciding to go and cook ground provisions like plantain or dashing or breadfruit, is either you soak it overnight just to leach out the excess sodium in there, or potassium. When you're ready to cook that food, you need to cook it in a large amount of water. When the food is halfway, you throw out the water, add fresh water, just so that to leach out, literally remove the excess sodium and potassium and other minerals in that provision. That is done to other vegetables, cabbage and others as well. Sometimes you need to soak it before you cook.
Yes.
So if you think what we're telling you, that generally cut down on your salt, when a person develops chronic kidney failure, kidney disease, the diet becomes even more restricted. So foods we used to tell you, it's all your spinach, your dark green leafy vegetables, that can no longer be. There is a restriction because of the different minerals, the potassium, the sodium that is in there. Because remember, I told you the kidney's function is to balance electrolytes and balance fluid. A person with kidney disease is no longer able to drink all the water. We used to tell you
Not at all.
when you used to be healthy, to drink all the water to help to keep your kidneys nice and working properly. A person with kidney disease is not able to drink. Your water is measured now.
Yeah.
Somebody with kidney disease do not pee as often,
No.
right? Because the kidneys have failed.
Yes.
The functions have been very, very limited or restricted. So I am encouraging you out there, in the absence of all these diseases, healthy lifestyle practices. Like I said, it's not always easy because we would have, developed that habit, that behavioral habit over years, the dietary habits.
You know what would be awesome? If we have somebody giving a testimony, like somebody went through it, and because sometimes you understand what you guys are doing is very good, very powerful. But sometimes persons don't acknowledge things like these. You give them it for free, and for them saying they rather pay.
Yes.
You understand? Like they don't understand. Is why?
I don't know what it takes, but
Like,
for persons to
somebody has
understand.
been through it, like the people that have been on dialysis, and the person still like you see that
Okay,
Yeah.
we can probably arrange that.
Yeah, that
I
would
can
be-
think of a
awesome.
I can think of a patient right now.
Yeah.
Who,
Come on,
We are not
yeah.
video, we are not video on dialysis patient. I think he's the president of the what is it? Renal something.
That would be awesome.
Yeah.
Yes,
Because,
we can organize that. Maybe we can, yes,
Yeah.
and have the person come in and
Mm.
speak to their life on dialysis or managing chronic kidney disease. Yes,
Might
a
be
joke,
online too,
but
because I think dialysis don't have is Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays.
Fridays, I think, yes.
Yes.
So yes, if you have somebody to come, like we had the lady came in
Mm-hmm.
2 Fridays ago
Yes,
to give
that
a
was testament.
testimony
Yeah.
about, yes, there has to put in a fistula for you,
Mhm.
right? This, do you see this person with this big, that's a fistula where they have to connect,
Yeah.
the artery and the vein, right? Yeah. So sometimes you have a port there, but that is not always it's not a permanent thing. It can get infected. So that is why the more permanent one is what we call a fistula, where they connect your artery and your vein. And then when you're ready to get your dialysis treatment, that is done, yeah,
Yeah.
on the days that you go and get.
Yeah.
Well,
And
But
additionally,
they're a kidney patient, but then at that time, that's the time they're going for dialysis.
okay.
On
The
the Monday.
Mondays.
Oh.
Persons have different
No,
days.
there are different days.
Yes, different
Oh, they have
schedule.
different days,
Yes,
but
yes.
this was Mondays, Wednesdays.
Okay.
Yes,
so
I know. Yes, so patients have different days.
But
Yes.
really and truly, if both of your kidney fails, in terms of urinating,
Exactly. There is, yeah. it
So
can
you
make
have to wait
urine
on the dialysis machine to extract, the
yes,
toxins out
the
of your
lovely-
body.
the toxins. I mean, it's not that you cannot, but it's very limited.
Limited, yes.
And it's also very frothy, meaning when you pee, it can franchise chim. It's very frothy. Yes, so
Yeah.
all this would indicate. I mean, that would have been the last stages of
Yeah.
stage 4 and 5 of kidney end stage renal disease.
And we must remember we don't have many dialysis machines, so don't think that okay,
Yes.
I can resort to that. That's an option if that happens to me. Right now, persons are waiting and
What?
Yes, that is the situation in St. Lucia. That I forget to emphasize that. Imagine somebody has to die in order for a space to be made available because we
Right.
have limited machines. I'm not sure how many at St. Jude Hospital now, and at OKEU, maybe just about 6. I don't know for now. Maybe
Some
12.
people
I don't
do
know.
privately, but it's very expensive.
Very expensive at Tapion, so it's very it much. I mean, at the public place, it's $350, but I think the person was saying at the private institution is $550 per session.
session.
So just think about it for a moment. So
Yeah.
apart from the physiological, the psychological, there is the financial aspect to it.
And you
And how
cannot
many
work.
persons have medical insurance?
Right.
You know, to cover.
$350 per session.
Yeah.
That is
Yes.
at St. Jude. That's the public institution. The private is $550. Remember the lady was
Yes.
saying the private, yeah,
Is more expensive.
it's more expensive.
Yes, and after that, you cannot even work because you're tired. You cannot go
Exactly.
back to. So if 3 days you're out of your job,
For 4 hours, you are seated there.
Yeah.
The machine is taking care of.
how much money can you
Cleaning
really
your-
make to take care of yourself?
Exactly.
So it's cheaper right now if you avoid.
Yes.
Better. It's
Prevention is better than cure.
Yeah.
There's an old adage that I think, if we follow through,
Yeah.
we will, save ourselves
A
in
lot.
the end.
Yes.
Somebody's asking, is flushing the kidney something you recommended? If yes, what are the herbs you would use? All right, dandelion, what do you have there? Letter tea. I use those. That's what he said.
I mean, our body is amazing. I mean, God made us and made everything in sync, in equilibrium, in balance, everything. And He gave us whatever we needed to do. I mean, to eat naturally and, drink your water, sleep
yes.
well. So, but there comes a time, of course, I must say that, of course, our bodies would have toxins, right? Our food is not always 100% organic and fresh. And so toxins are likely to be part of our bodies. And persons ask that a lot. Should I, like he was saying, flush the kidneys and so? But to me, the best way to flush your kidneys is to drink lots of water.
Hydrate yourself.
Hydrate yourself. So you go to the bathroom. So the excretion of the excess sodium and toxins, it's past.
Let me ask you a question. Does bare alcohol, does it have salt?
I'm sure it would, because I know Coke has sodium.
Yes.
So I'm sure. I have not looked at the beer per se, but I am sure it would have contained.
Let me research.
Yeah, do a little
Yes,
research.
Coke
Yes,
has.
but I know for Coke it has a small amount of sodium. Some of the sodas we drink, especially Coca-Cola.
Yeah, not from them where you have the bad habits.
Yeah.
Yes,
That's
yes.
Ah!
Yeah. So
Even some of the sweet things we eat has sodium.
Yeah,
Tomato
some of the
ketchup
sweet
and
things.
stuff, the condiments on the
of
table.
course.
Yes.
I got it to preserve it.
Yes.
Ketchup has a lot of sodium.
Yes.
Yeah, the sugary foods, some of the packaged foods, they do contain sodium.
Or them snacks.
On the snacks. Oh yeah, we spoke about that a while ago.
Right,
On the
yeah.
children, it does contain a lot of the MSG and so.
Wow.
Yeah.
Very informative. 11 o'clock is super solution.
It's very low content in sodium.
Okay, but it still has. But depending on if I know of
Your
a person who
body.
drinks a crate of beers
Yeah.
Yeah.
and a lady at that again at one sitting, 24 beers.
Yes,
So
that's
so the build up, right?
Mm-hmm.
So just to close off, can I just
Yeah,
just give a little roundup? Some tips to help you lower your sodium or salt intake. Number one, you need to read food labels. If you cannot have somebody to help you to interpret, to see if this food product has salt or sodium. Number two, stay away or eat out less the restaurants and the
Yes.
grab and goes and the takeouts. Try as much as possible to cook your food at home.
Yes.
Also, you can use a lot of local herbs and seasonings, celery and parsley and garlic and onions, all of that to season your food instead of the packaged seasoning. So remember, our theme was shake the habit.
Yes.
So shake off the habit of using
Bohayo.
salt, bohayo and sazon
Sazon.
and cubes. Oh my word, cube has chicken fat, it has MSG and all. You see in this little compact thing, oh, it has so much in there that it is very detrimental to your health. Okay.
Yes.
Also, you can rinse some of the food. Sometimes, okay, the canned stuff, you can rinse it out to move the excess sodium as well. All right. And of course, like I said, use a lot of unsalted packaged peanuts, cashew. Choose to use the ones with no salt in there.
Yes.
All right, St. Lucia and the diaspora, those listening, we can do a bit every day, and at the end of the day, that would redound to good health and wellness. All right, so it is cheaper for us to live healthy, eat healthier, than to sit at a doctor's office or to take dialysis 3 days a week for God knows how many years.
Or be on pressure medication.
Or be on blood pressure and diabetes medication. So thank you for having me. It's always a pleasure to educate the general population.
Yes.
David, any last words?
Sure. I'll give an experience, something I tried. In terms of cooking, right? If you're making soup or bouillon, what I do, I chop my seasoning, and towards the end, when I'm close to putting it off, I put it in there, and there's a burst of flavor. So
Oh,
the
yes.
amount of salt you have to put in there is limited. So use your herbs, use your spices, and just read your labels. Be careful what you eat, monitor what you're eating, and trust me, your food can be enjoyable
Oh, yes.
even with limited or no salt.
Definitely.
If I need him, but here I stop.
So let me say goodbye to our listeners. Hopefully, for the coming sessions, we will be touching base on respiratory diseases as well as mental health, because I remember last week I said we want to continue the regime of mental health and how we go about, everyday lives dealing with the issues and the psychological effect the issues have on our health. So I want to continue that. Let me just say thank you to Erland for being here. We're forever grateful that you're here to assist us. And good morning, Fawn. I know you're out there listening. I hope you have a wonderful day. M&C Drugstore staff, our market vendors, our teachers that might be listening, students that are at home. We know school is closing very soon. However, constructive, do something at home that is very constructive. Continue being in your books. I know that Easter weekend is coming. We want persons to be mindful to reduce the alcohol content of what they use, the foods that they eat, and so on. So we want persons to be mindful, even if it's Easter and you don't know if you'll see another Easter, but however, be mindful of all these things, because based on our eating habits, our drinking habits, it can be detrimental to our health.
Yes.
Again, thank you, Ulan.
You're welcome. Bye. Have a good day.
Yeah, have a good day.
10 a.m. to 11 a.m. with the consultant. Health is not merely the absence of diseases. It is your social, economic,